No.
No, I don't know.
Joanne?
Yeah, the bad time.
Yeah, that time.
Color, 1110 Robson near Thurlow. Imagine a warm, soothing, invigorating, healthful, swirling spa in the privacy of your own home. Now the Bath Center makes it possible at surprisingly affordable prices, featuring the famous patented Ultra Jet system. The Bath Center's certified factory installers can custom jet nearly any tub or spa. Drop in, see the leader in hydrotherapy equipment. Bring your blueprints. The Bath Center staff will show you extensive bath fashions far beyond your expectations. The Bath Center in Langley, 5 minutes from the freeway.
Here's Jerry Lewis with the 7-Eleven coffee song.
I want a cup of 7-Eleven coffee.
My coffee pot is fresh and hot. Pour it, drink it.
You will be his fool.
This hot coffee is the special brew. That little cup will wake you up. It's good and hot. 7-Eleven coffee from the friendly coffee pot.
Webster is next on BCTV.
One. Oh, one, said he. Good morning. Consternation in the Prime Minister's party in Salzburg, Austria this morning, and in his office in Ottawa. He was just about to take off after being tied up by the snowstorm when he was trying to see the Austrian officials, when he was informed from Algeria that the visit with the President of Algeria could not now take place. And instead, the Prime Minister and his party are going off to Lahr in West Germany to stay there until he continues his tour with a flight to Lagos in Senegal and his much vaunted trip after that. The original report came out, said that the Prime Minister's jet plane had been diverted in mid-air on its way to Algeria. Not so, I'm told, by the Prime Minister's office in Ottawa this morning. But the visit has been cancelled, quite officially, because the President of Algeria cannot now meet with Trudeau. Trudeau, of course, is running 4 days late. He might have been just as well to stay for a couple more days with the wine, the cheese, the mutton, the beef, and the stew, whatever, in the snow-trapped village in the Austrian Alps. Not that I'm laughing about it, but he's been making such a fuss, you know, the big international world statesman. He's doing a Joe Clark, as a matter of fact. He gets fouled up in a ski village, he's all set to make another big trip, and whammo, it gets cancelled on him. By, of all people, the President of Algeria. Why do I laugh? Anyway, just wanted to fill you in. Now, there's something else I've got to say this morning, briefly and succinctly. I was not in the least bit surprised when Rafe Mayer quit yesterday as the Minister of Health in the Social Credit Government of Victoria. It does indicate, no matter what they say, and no matter how regretful Mr. Bennett is at losing this valuable and experienced minister, it does indicate considerable strife within the Social Credit Cabinet. And I've got to tell you that we must welcome to the most difficult portfolio in the government Jim Nielsen, an ex-hotliner, who is going to take over the Ministry of Health. And as somebody said to me this morning, he was in Consumer and Corporate Affairs. Consumer and Corporate Affairs loss is now the loss of the Ministry of Health. But I do believe that Brzezowski, his deputy minister, I'm speculating, Pete Brzezowski, will probably move over to become Nielsen's deputy minister in the health department. Now, I'm not going to give Mayor any free plugs for his new job, name of goodness. The guy is totally unskilled at the art. And of course, he does start with rather a big handicap. He's lucky he's not on television, because the social credit brand would show on his forehead. However, maybe he's just hiding in the weeds because he feels social credit is falling to pieces, is going to regroup and then make a bold lead for the leadership of the social credit party when Mr. Bennett disappears, as we all must do one day. Yesterday, however, I decided to go and have a good clinical look at Vancouver City Council, and I wanted to see a major debate on the ward system. But the debate on the ward system on which Harcourt was elected was delayed because of a very important event, which I think you will now see. Will you?
You were elected to put out the fire. Now show us you can do it.
It was Harcourt's 38th birthday. He looks more than that. He doesn't get his wish because he left one candle unblown out. 38th birthday. And on the agenda yesterday was a discussion of the ward system. You know, his big thing. Had to be delayed. The usual gab fest out there. And it turned out that Michael, God bless him, had 10 people coming to his house last night for a birthday party. So despite all the talk about the ward system, it has to wait as unfinished business till next week because Mike, quite naturally, did not want to miss his birthday party. Now, also this morning, I'm going to show you something that will be seen throughout the province on television starting on Monday on something called, where are we? The Knowledge Network. The Knowledge Network. This is the educational network, and we have Walter Harcourt.
Walter who?
Walter Hardwick, who's running the thing to tell us all about it. After that, we're going to talk quite seriously to Richard Simmonds, who resigned as a member of the International Pacific Salmon Commission. You know, that controls the operation of the US-Canadian Joint Treaty on Salmon Fishing, and find out why he resigned. And later, we're going to speak to the man from Katimavik, which is a kind of make work, apparently quite a good make work and make education program for youngsters in this country, now in its 4th year, and apparently over its teething troubles. But first, we're going to City Hall after the break. Vancouver City Council, just getting into gear with its new majority and Harcourt as mayor, did deal with one thing finitely yesterday. They fired the police officer, not fired him, sent him back to the police station because Harcourt felt, with the majority of council, that he doesn't need a security officer around the City Hall. A number of people at the City Hall are very unhappy that the security officer will no longer be there. Other business dealt with yesterday, including an examination of the Molnar development. And of course, the birthday was very important indeed. However, after the meeting, I joined the aldermen in the coffee room to see what I could pick up from them. First, Puil.
I tell you, I took 10 days and I went to Hawaii and I played tennis every day and I came back refreshed. I'm so refreshed, I'm in a great mood, I feel fantastic.
I was there, it rained every day.
You weren't on Kauai. You see, you picked the wrong island. I've got an insight into that. I used to be chairman of the park board. Well, we can pick our days and islands.
I sense that you're a very unhappy alderman. I watched you in the council chamber, your face absolutely set. Some of these people you can't stand.
I wouldn't say that. I just call them like I see them.
No. Answer the question. You're unhappy?
Yes, I'm not too happy. No, I'm unhappy because I think that the city was headed for great things, and I think that there's a possibility of those great things disappearing down the drain because we have a left and far left council. And
in fact, you called one of them comrade.
I did that very quietly. I was surprised they picked it up. It took them about 3 minutes before suddenly they realized what was said. In fact, I've been called all sorts of names. Warren Kennedy
called
has
a
been called
right-wing
all sorts of names.
Neanderthal.
Bernice Gerard used to be called Bubbles. Listen, this is a name-calling group of people. I very seldom resort to that. I said it in a nice vein, as a friendship sort of thing.
Look, are you going to quit?
There's a strong possibility that may come about. I wouldn't quit in midterm. It depends upon what happens with major projects such as Transpo, the convention center, which I think are good for the city, and the tenor of the council over the next year.
Little prediction. PRBC, Gracie told me unless you kick in the $4 million and meet her terms by the end of January, down the tube.
Okay. If the provincial government would take over the running of the convention center and the federal government would meet the 27 million that the provincial government probably would willing to be put up, I'd be willing to put up $4 million more to get rid of the operating of the convention center, because I think that it's a great thing for the city.
You don't want to see it go down the tube.
I don't want to see
it. But it might well.
If it goes down the tube, blame your leftist friends on council.
Who are they? Harcourt?
Well, they're well documented, yes.
Harcourt?
Yes, of course they are.
Erickson?
Yorke?
Comrade Yorke?
Yes, and Mr. Rankin.
The leader?
And they've got a few left-leaners there that may go their way.
Who?
Well, there's only two other people that can be mentioned, and I want you to say it.
Maggie Ford and May Brown.
You know, your intellect has grown over the last few years. It's good to see you again.
I hope you don't lose
So
your
is something else growing.
My stomach. I was talking to George Puil just now, and he said that when he called you Comrade Yorke, it was sotto voce and obviously not meant to be nasty. Were you upset?
No, I said at the time that usually when people talk that way, it only means that they haven't got any real arguments, and so what the heck? Why should I be upset about it?
Do you think you're going to make it on this council? I mean, you're totally out of your element here. You're sitting with all these capitalist developer lovers, you know, go along with
look at what George did today. You see, very good lead he took today, and went right along with him. Do you call him?
You're referring to the fact that George took the common sense approach that the General Hospital was involved in blockbusting, and the developer should not get his 50 units.
He was right. He was right when he brought it up 2 weeks ago. Whenever it was, we voted with him then. We'll vote it now.
Could it be that your philosophy is infecting George?
No, I don't think so.
Are you planning to sign him up in the party?
Well, if he wants to join, we'll consider it, yeah.
What's that suit cost? How much did that boy cost? $450? Hey?
Are you jealous, Jack? Are you jealous?
I'm jealous.
Are you not getting enough in your job?
I'm telling you, I'm jealous
you want
of
to
your
apply for your
position of power. One last thing. I got a letter from a guy who said that I should get thanks from Pravda for helping elect you. Did I help elect you? Don't say yes. No comment, please.
Yes, I think you did, Jack. Yes, I think you did.
Thank you, Alderman.
You recognize a good thing when you see it.
Thank you, Alderman Yorke.
Okay.
What did you get for your birthday?
I'm getting my golf clubs refinished and some new golf shoes.
This is from Becky.
It's from Becky, and a picture of Becky and Justin for my desk at City Hall. What else could you ask for?
Can I tell the camera that this man, although he looks effete, in fact is a very good golfer who shot 85 at Kapalua and Maui.
And you were what, 86? Very close match.
That's very kind of you. Separate take.
Okay, Jack.
Grace McCarthy put it to me very bluntly that unless you and your council come up with the extra $4 million on an $85 million cost, which she says is firm, and give her full cooperation and support and the feds, PRBC is down the tube. Will that make you happy?
Well, we need a trade and conference center. There's no disagreement on that. But the question is at what cost and what impact? And that's why we've appointed, Jack, a financial task force to have a hard-nosed look at this project, made it #1 priority. Alderman Brown is chairing that. We have a meeting next Thursday. We'll have a full report, or as full as we can get, to look at the figures.
Will you make a decision by hot deadline?
We will make a decision, as I said before, and this council said. Some members of council were prepared to make it in December. We will make a decision January the 20th. Her deadline was the end of January. I've said all along that we are going to make a quick decision, but it's going to be well thought out.
Your three leftists in council are definitely going to vote against it. I have that word from the leader, Harry.
Right?
He told me that.
Yes.
Right. Do you think it should carry? Or are you going
Well,
to...
as I said, I want to have Alderman Brown do what we appointed her to do, which is to get all the facts together. She says 85 million. Gordon Therriault says 85 million. Our city manager says at least 105 million.
But you don't believe what Gordon Therriault says. You were mad at him.
Well, as I said in June of 1979, I thought there were more appropriate people to head up a complex project like this, and I haven't changed my mind.
Question for Grace McCarthy, who told me that unless you people approve the extra money, at least $4 million, and start cooperating by the end of January, PBC is down at 2. How will you vote, Harry?
Vote against giving 1 penny more for PRBC, and so will my 2 colleagues, Bruce Yorke and Bruce Erickson.
You mean you've got a solid phalanx of 3?
That's correct, yes.
Well, how will the council break down then? What will Harcourt do? Jump the fence?
I think so.
In other words, Grace will get her cooperation and the extra money you predict.
I think she may get an extra 4 million, but then the problem is that won't resolve the problem. 20 million won't do it. She says she'll get 8 million from the provincial government, 8 million from the federal government, and 4 million from the city. There's just one problem with that. That's about half of what she needs. So she'll be coming back again, making some more threats.
You don't believe the 85 million figure?
No way.
She's full of wind.
She is not correct in it because she has no hard facts to support it.
Harry, I've got a feeling this council is going to self-destruct. There's an air of tension in that place.
No.
George Puil looks very unhappy.
Yes.
Even though he was quite sound and sane from your point of view today.
Yeah,
Think it's going to be the world's worst council?
No, I don't think so. I think that this council will be an interesting council. We'll survive this 2 years. We have a history of surviving.
And then you'll run for mayor.
We'll see in 2 years.
You promised?
No, I didn't.
You said when you got the boys on council, Erickson and Yorke, that you'd have a bash at mayor.
I said that when we got some co-people on council, I would look at the situation then, and very likely I will. Very likely.
Very likely Harry Rankin will run for mayor in 2 years.
I'll look at it.
Very likely you'll look at it.
That's right.
You and your fancy legal...
Well, let's suppose at the end of 2 years, we're faced with Puil running, Harcourt running, myself running. A 3-way split.
You'd walk in.
Maybe.
And May Brown, don't forget May Brown.
Maybe. So, you never, if you saw the odds were against you in that particular area, your people would say to you, this isn't the year. But I certainly think that at my age, and the fact that there are 3 members of COPE right now on council, that it's more likely I'll look at it much more clearly.
Was this the tie you got when you were demobbed from the army?
That tie, my friend, is from South America, Peru. That's a good tie.
Peru?
A lot better tie. Yes, my brother-in-law brought it. It's a lot better tie than you own.
Was it made by a worker?
That's wool.
Made by a worker?
That tie is worth more than your tie.
There's a union label on mine. There isn't one on yours.
That's a good tie.
There's no union label on it.
May not be any union label, but it's a better tie than you own.
Thank you, Alderman Rankin.
Cheap silk tie. Cheap. It's a cheap, what we call a cheapie.
Woodward Special, $1. You can sometimes get these politicians to be quite human if you just pull their legs during the coffee break. Next, the Knowledge Network.
What are you looking for, the inside or the outside?
This is unilingual. Starting Monday, there will be a new television signal in this province, an educational television signal. I don't know if it's going to be a flop or if it's a waste of public money or not. But I have here Walter Hardwick, former Deputy Minister of Education. You quit that job?
Yes, Jack. I retired at the end of September.
And you are now the president of?
The Knowledge Network.
Now, I remember when you were doing experiments on this some particular time ago, and I must confess to a fair lack of knowledge about it. Who will see before we talk about your program content, if any, who will see the Knowledge Network?
The Knowledge Network will be available, Jack, in 34 communities in British Columbia starting on Monday. In Greater Vancouver and Greater Victoria on the mid-band, that's on Channel 18 or Channel E, for those people who have converters on cable.
Right.
In the interior and north, they will be seen on cable on the regular band, that is the 2 to 13 band, if the cable system is plugged in. And in a few communities, such as Fort St. John and Fort Nelson, where there are not cable, we will be in the college with a classroom fitted out with TV monitors where people can see the programs, and for the interactive programs, talk back to the instructors in the Lower Mainland.
By telephone?
By telephone.
Not unlike my own operation in
Not
some way.
unlike it. We had a good look at yours, Jack.
Well, you can certainly learn a lot from it, I'm quite sure.
Sure.
But let me get this quite clear. Is this the equivalent of TV Ontario?
No, it is not the equivalent of TV Ontario, because TV Ontario is really like a public broadcasting system. It is more like KTCS 9 in Seattle.
You mean TV Ontario is like the PBS?
That's right. We are in the education and instruction business, and every program that is here is sponsored by an institution, and if a person wants, they can get additional materials which will allow them to use that for credit towards some kind of diploma or degree or whatever.
Is this an extension arm of that much vaunted thing called the Open Learning Institute?
The Open Learning Institute is one of the institutions in the province that will use this, and some of the programs that are here will be sponsored by the Open Learning Institute, but some of them by the University of Victoria, the University of British Columbia, North Island College, BCIT, and other institutions.
How about UBC? Are they originating programs?
Yes, if you look there, you'll notice that there is a course from the Faculty of Education, an important one, I might say, on handicapped children. And teachers, there are 27,000 of them around the province, and if we can get to them in their communities to upgrade them in dealing with those special problems, this is going to be a very cost-effective and interesting way of doing it.
Let me get this quite clear. Do I have to enroll to take a course in anything in the Knowledge Network?
You don't have to, Jack. You can eavesdrop, and there's lots to learn.
Can I enroll, take a course, and get a degree?
You can enroll, take a course, and get credit. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a degree.
Oh, I thought that was why you went to university.
Oh.
Is this a University of the Air in embryo?
It is very similar to the University of the Air, except that we are not dealing just with university courses. I'm trying in this program, which is a demonstration program, to show the people and the educators, because the educators have got to learn as much as the public, what can be done. You'll notice on Saturday morning we're going to run a course on aircraft maintenance for people that run airlines around the province who need to upgrade their personnel.
Well, just a minute, before you tell me anything about your courses, we picked out a clip from one of your programs which gives some of the early morning courses, which don't seem to be university-type courses for credits, and we'll run it right now, and we'll just see what they say. Voice up, yeah.
In schools programming, and we'll have things that run after. We're trying to run until the end of May, and the schedule is complete on the whole for all of that time. Now, if we move across the schedule, you'll see that we have similar kinds of courses on Tuesday, where we have applied sketching techniques, Oceanus, Planet of Man, and schools programming. Wednesday offers a repeat of Monday, but they are not a repeat because many of the courses, such as freehand sketching or home gardening, were designed for 15 weeks with 2 programs a week. So it's a different program on Wednesday. Again, on Thursday is a repeat of Tuesday. Friday, however, has different kinds of things. We have the First Years of Life, and then we have a course from the Justice Institute called After the Honeymoon, and we have schools programming. Now, Saturday, we have live programming, and our first live on a Saturday morning will be the Pacific Vocational Institute's Aircraft Maintenance Engineer upgrading course to be licensed. Sunday, we begin to have our repeat schedule, and our repeat repeats many of the courses that have been shown on the weekdays.
Now, you're not broadcasting all day.
Jack, we're up 77 hours a week. We are down, I might say, like BCTV, on your northern service for 20 hours a week, in which the satellite is unavailable to us.
You're not on our satellite, are
We're
you?
on your satellite.
Did anybody invite
It's
you?
our satellite. In fact, we were on it before BCTV was on
so?
it. That's right. But this is the beginning, by the way, Jack, of a Canadian service to the interior and the north.
A Canadian educational service?
No, Canadian service, carrying BCTV, CBC, and the Knowledge Network.
Yes.
Yeah, so that from the Department of Communications, which is supplying the satellite, your program, and I know that you're heard in the early morning up in Yellowknife. I hear that some of the people get rather annoyed when they close down the satellite on you.
That's correct.
And I might say to the fellows...
once you get a taste of Webster, you
oh,
never
that's
lose it.
right. But we might say to the fellows in Yellowknife, if they want the Knowledge Network, they should go to their cable operator and get a modulator, because they can pick up our signal too.
It'll cost them a lot of money.
About $1,700 for a cable operator to create the modulator that will pick up our signal.
All right. Are you enrolling students in these classrooms?
Colleges around the province are enrolling students. We are not. We are a network. We are providing the signal.
Now, what about cooperation from the teaching staffs of the universities, who doubtless feel that this is an extension of what they're already they should be getting more money because of doing this?
Well, Jack...
Because I remember thinking at one time that if you really could get into this business of educational teaching by university, you'd have to upgrade your communication standards of many of your university teachers.
You have to. There's no question about it.
Oh, you agree with me?
Oh, yes. And there are very few people that really want to do it and to put the time in. Because you have to prepare something. This has to be really well prepared if it's going to carry out. So that there's a lot of lead time involved. And there's graphics that have to be prepared, the video components and all the rest of it. And for many people, they would rather do it the easy way, which is stand up and talk.
In front of a classroom.
Which I did for 16 years, so I understand that.
So you're going to you might develop some new educational television communicators who can do an excellent job.
People are showing up all over the place. I was out at UBC yesterday, and our old friend Peter Pierce is busy preparing something on forest economics. I'm quite sure that will be a very valuable course that would be received all through the Pacific region.
In the early days when you were experimenting with this, I've got to take a break.
Oh,
I'll
that's
be back
understandable.
to Walter Hardwick, the president of the Knowledge Network, after the break. I remember in the early days talking to Walter Hardwick of the Knowledge Network. I think Carney was involved at the time, and you were doing some transmissions.
On the Hermes satellite, Jack, from BCIT. That was nearly 3 years ago now.
And you were telling me then, or somebody, maybe it was McGeer, was telling me that you'd use this for medical education.
Yes.
A really useful purpose.
Yes.
Now, is medical education acceptable by the doctors, and have you anything scheduled for that?
Yes, we have. In medical health education, we are looking right now about getting a scrambler because the doctors, wanting to deal with doctors in the north, don't want it all. They don't want someone's gallbladder out, I guess, right on public TV.
I didn't think of that, but obviously.
So they're going to come on in April, and by that time we hope to have a scrambled signal for that period of time, which they will be using to deal with the practitioners throughout the interior.
In other words, they might be doing a complicated or a new procedure actually in an operating room somewhere.
That's right, Jack. They have already got television cameras, for example, in the microscope so that they can put tissue on. And they could display that into the Prince George General or into the Terrace General or wherever it is.
Could it be used for emergency response?
It could well be. The biomedical communications people at UBC are really very interested in that. And we're also looking at what they call slow scan, which is using a smaller bandwidth, which the technical man like Webster will understand.
Couldn't know.
So anyway, it's yes, there will be good use by that kind of thing. We're also in continuing legal education and a number of other areas in which upgrading is very important. And this is going to allow people in the interior and the north to get their credentials, to keep up with their professions and whatnot. And in my view, that this will add substantially to the continuing life, if you like.
Do you mean people's law school type of education?
No, I'm talking about continuing legal education by the
legal profession
by
itself.
the legal profession itself.
Would you need a scrambler for that too?
For many of the things that they are carrying on, the public should know about them. Mm-hmm. There are some things which we may well have to use the scrambler.
Now, there are a number of fairly housewifey things, are there not?
Oh, that was the morning, and that's what the morning is for basically for housewives and for schools. We're going to run school broadcasts. In the mid part of the day...
It'll be optional for the schools to receive it or use it as they wish.
Well,
for instance, as a former official of the Department of Education and now running this, could you tell people to take it?
No, but our Provincial Education and Media Centre, which will put those up, those can be taped off the air. And let us say that you're in a school in Smithers and tape off the air, you may be able to get it right there and then rather than having to wait for 2 weeks while it's sent up by courier or something of that nature.
I hope you're not building a whole new fantastic CBC-type bureaucracy.
Well, Jack, right now I'm operating with myself on a quarter time and 3 people on full time at the professional national level, and a studio staff that's less than you've got here. So I think you would be proud of us on that score.
Where do you broadcast from?
We have a small studio right now at the Industrial Ed Building on the Willingdon campus in Burnaby, and that's where our uplink is. That is where it shoots the satellite.
How much have you spent, and what are you going to spend next year?
We have a grant, a capital grant, of getting the whole thing up of $1,200,000, which came from the surplus bill when the government had it, and an operating budget of something in the neighborhood of $350,000. But most of the course material, as you can see, is coming from institutions. So that's where the dollars are spent. The University of Victoria on public administration, on nursing, BCIT, that's the one you're going to go to sleep on, by the way, Jack. That's the building code. That may not interest you, but I'm sure that municipal officials around the province are going to find that very elaborating.
I've got a beautiful one here. Oh, a couple of beauties. Yeah. Leisure education.
Yes.
And all you need is love.
Yes, that is actually a TV Ontario program on the history of pop music.
Oh, I thought maybe you were going to put Wendy King on. No.
What am I supposed to do with those one-liners?
Nothing you're supposed to do with them. But you're going to pick up for free from TV. Are they going to charge you for the program?
TV Ontario likes to get money for what they produce.
We'll have arts courses.
Yes.
Mathematics courses.
Yes, you can take calculus. Notice that right off the start Sunday morning. How would you like that, Jack?
If you can get it, you don't have to register. If you're a student, you obviously will
have to register.
You will be registered for your particular credits.
You will have a tutor, and you will be examined and so forth. But if you want to watch it and learn, you watch it and you'll learn.
Not bad, is it?
Yes.
Anything else you want to tell me about?
We're very proud. I'll tell you, Jack, that for your people in the interior north, and I know there's lots of people here.
Oh, I believe we have a call here.
We're interested in what people are going to see of value to them. We've been approached by the province of Alberta, and they say, could we put on the theoretical component of apprenticeship training so that tradesmen in the tar sands and all the rest of it don't have to leave and can do this in the evening or do this on release time? We're going to look at that kind of thing. And this is a demonstration schedule, and we may change it quite dramatically by next September.
You're only on until May, though.
No. We just are doing semester-length blocks. So we've programmed from now till May, and then they'll be from May to September, and then we'll have another one from September to December. We're on, we hope, for the next indefinite period.
All the same SFU? Continuous semesters?
It's continuous semesters.
Not like UBC?
Yes.
Go ahead, from where is it? Prince George?
George, that's right.
Have you a question for Walter Hardwick?
Mr. Webster, I have been interested in this knowledge network since having seen a small article in the Prince George paper, and I called the College of New Caledonia and did obtain a schedule from them. The thing that concerns me, though, is that I've been told also that the teachers up here are concerned about the knowledge network, and there is a strong possibility that some of these courses will not be carried on the local cable channel.
Oh, why?
Well, they're worried, I guess, about their jobs. Now, to be honest with you, I have no intention of taking a course to get any degree or anything of that type, but I do enjoy watching some of the better shows on Channel 9, and I think this could be very useful to an awful lot of people who just want to expand their own general knowledge.
Well, what's the problem, Walter Hardwick, with the College of New Caledonia faculty?
Well, Jack, I don't know if there's any problem with the College of New Caledonia faculty. However, the program, as far as I know, will be available on Prince George Cable, as it is here. We've talked to Ron East, who runs the cable system up there, and as far as I know, the whole program. Now, it may well be that the College of New Caledonia will not have the support materials for some of those courses, because that is a local decision by the college, not us.
Go ahead, from Vernon.
Right. I was in Burnaby not too long ago, a couple of weeks ago, and I noticed that Mr. Hardwick said that he has a staff of 3 full-time people and himself quarter-time. Yet when I went by the Willingdon campus, there was this brand-new building which looked like a bunker, which looked like it would hold a lot more than 4 people. It looked like it would hold about 200 and quite a...
Is that your building, Walter?
No, I don't know where you've been by. We're down the basement in the Industrial Ed building, and we have 2 rooms and a studio in the middle. So
he pleads not guilty.
That's not us. It's somebody else's bunker that you've seen.
Oh, there's quite a large new building that says Open Learning Institute. And
we're not the Open Learning Institute.
What about this Open Learning Institute? Is it a success?
It's in Richmond. They have 3,600 course enrollees this fall, Jack.
Correspondence courses.
Correspondence courses. And they're going to run some, the 19th century novel here, and on a women's access program, and on introductory biology course will be on the network, our Open Learning Institute courses.
You're confusing the two. The Open Learning Institute is something different altogether.
That's right, and it's good from the gentleman from wherever it was, Vernon, to establish the difference. We carry programs from any institution in the province that is prepared to put them forward.
Take one more call. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Jack.
Good morning.
I'm a little annoyed with our government over this whole situation.
Good.
The reason being is quite simple. I have to pay a cable fee to get the signal to get a program that was created with my tax dollar.
If you want to go to a classroom in the colleges around the province, that will be available to you for free. We cannot, and there's no way that I know of providing a signal to all the communities in this province. The CBC people tell me, and I'm sure your people would tell me much the same, Jack, that it costs as much to deliver the signals in this province as all the national services to all the rest of Canada.
I understand your problem.
And so we have to deliver it in a community the only way that's available to us, and that is through the community cable or into a classroom.
The Lower Mainland, where the majority of the people live.
Well, what would you suggest? Free cable services for those who want to watch this network?
No free cable. You pay for what you get. But with my tax dollar...
What you're suggesting is that we should have a broadcast license in the Lower Mainland.
Well, sir...
And I would think that it might well be desirable to have a broadcast license in the Lower Mainland.
Well, you've got a dish right outside of Parliament. Why can't you have a broadcast license? It shouldn't be any more difficult than the dish.
Well, I'll tell you, the provincial government, in funding this organization like many others, wanted to see that it could fly, that it would do a job before they got into a lot of capital investment in the situation. So we are delivering it the simplest way we can, and that is through the cable. And I, along with this gentleman, would believe it should be in people's homes if we can do it. I can tell you that the Vancouver Community College, which is supporting some of these programs, is investigating how to get cheap converters, how to make converters available to students that could not otherwise get them. So we're doing everything we can. But we couldn't do quite what this gentleman wants.
In other words, this present system is the only practical way at the moment.
Jack, I know no other way of getting around this province.
Thank you for your call, and thank you for your presence here this morning, Walter Hardwick. I suppose we'll just have to judge it by what means.
Jack, my judgment is going to be in part on the social benefits that come out of it. And if we can enrich the lives of the people in the North, if we can allow professionals to stay and make their careers because they are able to keep up with their work that they're doing, if we can shortcut the training of specialists that need to be done, all those things are going to be positive, and I will say those will be measures of accomplishment.
My thanks to Walter Harcourt, President of the Canal.
Walter, who, Jack?
I've got a mental block this morning. You're both bald. That's the problem.
We were both on City Council, too. That's the problem.
You were an alderman. Of course, I'd forgotten that.
For 6 years.
With Vancouver's best mayor, Tom Campbell. He thinks I'm joking. I'm not.
No, that was the best council ever.
And I'll be back with Richard Simmonds, who resigned from the International Pacific Salmon Commission after the break. Dick Simmonds recently resigned from the International Pacific Salmon Commission. Just describe that commission to me, first of all.
Commission of 6 people, 3 Canadians, 3 Americans. I was one of the 3 Canadians. We have a staff underneath us, or when I was part of it, we had a staff underneath us of a director, assistant director, and a variety of technical people, biologists.
And your function?
Function is to manage the sockeye and pink salmon run that enters the Fraser River through Canadian and American waters.
And is that function basically to share the catch in an equitable manner based on where the fish originated?
There's a treaty going back to, I believe it's 1937, that said the sockeye that go up the Fraser River will be divided 50-50 between Canada and the U.S. because the Americans helped us out back then. Since that time, I believe in the 50s, courtesy of Jimmy Sinclair, we included the pink salmon into that, so now sockeye and pink.
You resigned, and it caused quite a little bit of a stir. Why did you, as one of the commissioners, say, I'm getting out of this, when negotiations have been going on for years between Canada and the United States on modifications?
Well, I think that's just a problem. Negotiations have been going on for years. I'm not accustomed to trying to deal with the management of anything under those circumstances. Our job was a rather technical job within the confines of the Act as it was and the laws and rules, the treaty as it was. We were obliged to study the runs and open and close the areas in the U.S. and Canada on a day-to-day basis. We looked at charts and graphs and test fishing on a day-to-day technical basis. And for the 4 years I was on the commission, it seemed to get worse each year as the outside involvement kept hindering the mechanical, day-to-day technical management of the industry.
Now, what do you mean by that? You're the people who would sit where? In the States or here?
Bellingham, unfortunately, the exotic city
You'd
of
sit
Bellingham.
at Bellingham, you'd get your test results, and you would say, okay, you can open the fishing in the Fraser River at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon for 2 days.
That's correct. Seldom were we in a position to give anybody 2 days anywhere, but generally it was 1 day.
But that was your function.
We had...
Now, what were the outside influences that made that more difficult?
Well, the function was not just to open and close the Fraser River, it was to open and close the Fraser River, the U.S. parts of the Georgia Strait, and the west coast of Vancouver Island were the general areas. The Judge Bolt in the U.S. had a famous decision back in about '74 who interpreted an Indian treaty with the U.S. government that contained a phrase that said that the treaty Indians will be allowed to share in common with the non-treaty Indians all the salmon in the state. He interpreted in common with to mean 50%. At the time, the treaty Indians were harvesting about 10 to 12 or 14%, something in that area. Now, this last year, they harvested fractionally under 50%, so they're right up there now. But that set up a whole new series of bureaucracies to deal with that domestic problem in the U.S. And we used to pass regulations, the Commission did, that were rubber stamped in Ottawa and Washington. Since I was on the Commission, we would send the regulations that we passed after studying all our figures and statistics, decide that there should be guessing at what we should do in the coming year. We sent it to Ottawa. Ottawa always ratified it, and Washington started saying we ratify it to the extent permissible considering our domestic situation. So effectively they were saying, we'll go along with your regulations until we decide not to. Oftentimes they decided not to.
Is the fact that the Bolt decision, which allows the U.S. treaty Indians to fish almost unlimitedly, 50% of the catch, is that stealing Canadian stocks?
Not directly, because ultimately the Commission's responsibility still is to divide the entire stocks 50-50.
Between the two countries?
Between the two countries. And what the treaty Indians in the U.S. are doing is taking 50% of the Americans' 50%. But from a technical management point of view, it still encumbers it if we're not all doing it together, because the American State Department just allows the Indian fishery sort of holus bolus without a whole bunch of consultation with us, and they could clean out an entire run that would affect both sides.
Do we have an effective treaty with the United States now through the International Pacific Salmon Commission, which can manage the waters properly?
We have a treaty that the American government is not living up to, and the Canadian government has sent diplomatic notes, I'm told they're called, each year, rather strongly worded, and each year the American government has said, and to some part our own government has said, listen, there's been no real tragedy as yet. Let's hang on, because we're negotiating and we're working on something now. That's what kept me...
Well, now, your resignation obviously would cause some consternation among salmon fishermen, professional salmon fishermen, commercial fishermen in British Columbia. How do they look on this particular problem? Because you were a fisherman at one time, were you not?
Oh, yeah, most of them up and through law school all my life I've been involved in fishing.
You're a
industry.
lawyer, but you're also a fisherman.
Yes,
right?
well,
How unhappy are Canadian fishermen over the situation now?
Oh, they're very unhappy. Unfortunately, they weren't all that knowledgeable, because all our meetings are held in camera. They're mostly government representatives. Government representatives traditionally are not inclined to be mouthing off to the press. Since I started talking, they're becoming a little more knowledgeable, and they're definitely concerned. It's their entire livelihood that's virtually put on the block here.
Any fishermen who want to talk to Richard Simmonds, Dick Simmonds, commercial fisherman, phone in the next segment, will you please? Because I want to find out what's going to happen after the break. You're not a fisherman now.
I'm glad we clarified that, Jack. I don't want the union after me. I was up until I started in the practice of law, but...
And you were on the commission how long?
4 years.
The Bolt decision is quite an incredible thing, whereby the U.S. Treaty Indians can more or less do what they like in salmon catching. That must upset the American fishermen beyond measure.
Oh, there was people shooting at each other and whatnot, and I don't want to at this point pass judgment on that particular domestic situation, and other than as it affects the overall situation.
Now, can you tell me what the state of our salmon stocks are now from your technical help? Are we going up or are we going down? Are we just cyclical as ever, hoping for the best in the years ahead?
Well, we're fighting with a hell of a handicap in that if we went full bore and started enhancing the Fraser River now, we could do fantastic things, possibly double or even triple our stocks. We've been holding off over the years. We have money, millions of dollars set aside, but we've been holding off pending this U.S.-Canada new agreement because we don't want to give them half of all the enhancement. We'd rather hold them to these levels and then enhance it. But in the meantime...
So we're really cutting off our own nose in some way, despite both faces.
Exactly, and it's unfortunate that grown men, and there's hundreds and hundreds of diplomats and bureaucrats have been hammering this thing out back and forth for a long time.
In other words, Canada is prepared to enhance and enrich the salmon stocks in the Fraser, but not if we're not going to get a fair share of them.
Exactly. And the Americans are just holding off, and I imagine, I'm not directly involved in those negotiations, but they have a tremendous hammer in those negotiations because, although it is very, very unfortunate that the industry generally is going without the benefit of enhancement at this point.
Now, when you go further north, say to the Adams River Run or the Nass River Run, they're Canadian runs.
The Adams River Run goes through the Fraser River up to the Adams River. That is one of our
Now, the point I'm making is that you're only concerned with the rivers on the border, or do you cover all the rivers on the coast?
We just cover the Fraser River because that generally is where there's fish that swim through the American waters. And they say, unless you agree with us, we're going to take them all when they swim through their waters. And we say, there are fish, we should have them. So there's a standoff, and some time ago they decided, okay, let's work it out in a civil way and divide it up.
The fish come down the Fraser, and somebody decides how many will be taken by Canadians and how many will be taken by Americans.
Commission decides that. It's supposed to be 50-50, but we decide the Americans might get a day opening in one area and half a day in another area, and the Canadians might get nothing because they've got more than their half at that point.
What a tricky situation.
It's tricky.
So you've got to balance the catch during the seasons.
Exactly. We hopefully are going to end up on a 50-50 at the end of the season.
Although the Americans are unhappy about the 50 of their 50 caught by the Indians without letter hindrance.
Most definitely.
Go ahead to Dick Simmonds.
Is that me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, good morning, Dick.
Good morning.
Been a fisherman for 30 years. And it's a problem, too. Amazes me that you lasted as long as you did in the job that you were at. And there's so darn many questions, I don't know really where to start. But I think one point I would like to bring out, and it comes with American interception, and that has to deal with fish other than pink salmon and sockeye. And I'll refer to the Boundary Bay fishery that they have. They start in the spring and fish there sometimes 5-6 days a week. And our local fishermen, gillnet fishermen on the Fraser, in some instances don't fish at all. This is a continued thing all year long, but doesn't seem to be discussed that often in the negotiations.
Just a minute. This is non-salmon fishing.
Oh no, it's salmon, but it's salmon species
that,
other than sockeye and pinks. There's chum salmon and spring salmon, and cohort generally the ones. And it is a real, very serious problem, a very visual problem, because as far as we're concerned in the Commission, the Fraser River fisherman gets the bad end of the stick because he is the tap, in effect. We wait until the last minute. If we screw up anywhere else, we just chop it at the river. And the river fisherman, as you're probably well aware, has been getting a rougher and rougher deal as the years went on.
Is that part of the treaty negotiations?
No, that's just a fact of management, because the entire fleet is getting more and more aggressive and efficient, and they're getting the fish further out, and there's less and less that get to the river. And when they get there, the Commission people are a little more nervous about allowing fishery there. They want them up for escapement.
Okay, have you another question?
Yeah, I'd just like to bring one more little thing up, Jack, if I could.
Sure.
I got 1,000 questions, but I'll go up to to a point that was just briefly mentioned by yourself with regards to the northern area with Alaska fishermen. realizing the problems of interception and the problems between the two countries, they formulated a surfline complex. And this was a setup where you took what they call the surf line and put it all along the outside portions of the coast. And anything seaward of that, like it followed the shoreline and left bays open and rivers open, but anything seaward of that, you were not allowed to net fish in. And this thing was done for, I guess California, Oregon, and Washington, BC, and Alaska. But because of a lucrative interception of our sockeye salmon for the, excuse me, the skein and the nass, the Alaskans extended theirs 3 miles all the way down. And Canada has reserved the right to be able to renegotiate this at
Are we losing fish on that one?
Pardon me?
Are we losing fish on that by interception?
Oh, goodness gracious. Since we spent the millions of dollars we have up on the enhancement program on the Skeena and the Nass River, they've been having a ball up there.
Is that right?
You wouldn't believe
Dick?
it. It's just, they let enough fish go by so that we have to really watch our conservation program down here. We lose days.
Let me hear from Dick on that.
Pardon me?
I want to hear from Dick Simmonds on that.
That's definitely a problem, and that the overall problem is that the negotiators from both governments are trying to incorporate, at least Canada wants to incorporate, a treaty or considerations in the north as well as the south in an overall new treaty, so that interception of the northern BC will be equal to the interception of southern BC.
Take one more call to Dick. Go ahead, please.
Oh, yes, Jack. I'm kind of skeptical about what Dick is saying, and for the specific reason that I'm not sure that he's touting the agreement that's being proposed right now. What he's saying to me, it sounds like, by golly, let's get moving here and sign this treaty. And me as a fisherman, I've been fishing all my life, as long as I could ever remember. And I've been well aware for the last 10 or 12 years what kind of a deal we've been getting via the Salmon Commission, which he's been part of for the last 4 years. And I can't see how we're going to get a better deal under the new proposed agreement than we're...
He doesn't like the new proposed agreement. What do you think of the new proposed agreement?
The new proposed agreement is going to give us more of what we've been getting under the Commission.
Okay.
We can't control them.
Just a minute. Dick will tell you what he thinks.
I sympathize with a lot of what the caller is saying. I'm not suggesting that we should jump on that new agreement. I don't think the Americans are, quite frankly, with the new president, are going to be all that excited about it in the near future. There's still going to be several years before we get something. All I'm trying to do is indicate the frustration from a regular day-to-day management point of view that the Commission has had in trying to manage the fishery because of these other things. But just to show you that you're not all that pleased with it, shows you how confused the whole problem is.
Well, what lies ahead? More confusion.
Indeed, unless the only people who can do something about it are the governments, because they are ultimately the arbiters of this whole thing, and they have to get involved. I'm hopeful that resignations like mine will bring it. And
do we have a Minister of Fisheries at the moment, federally?
Yes, Romeo LeBlanc. He's the fellow who appointed me. And
does he know about? At one time, I was very knowledgeable in things like the Company of Young Canadians, the CYO, I think it was, LIP and LEAP and LAP and LOUP. And I remember a few years back doing a program on Katimavik. Well, to my surprise and astonishment, I find that Katimavik is still going. And I have here Monsieur Phaneuf. First name?
Paul.
Paul Phaneuf, who's the Executive Director of the Federal Government Make Work Project for Young Canadians. Is that the correct description?
That's a correct description.
How long have you been going?
We're in our 4th year right now and planning for year 5.
How much does it cost the taxpayer?
$12.1 million.
Per year?
Per year.
For how many, for what kind of people? Who are these people in the Katimavik program?
Well, these are young Canadian, male and females, between the age of 17 to 21.
This isn't a cultural exchange program.
It is not. But because they're going to work in 3 different places in Canada, they're definitely going to learn more about their country, and also they're going to try to learn the second language, which is not also very easy in Canada, as you know.
But it's not a bilingual program as such, is it?
It is also a bilingual program. We hope that when they finish the 9 months, they will all be bilingual.
This is for young Canadians between the ages of 17 and 21.
Right.
How many are in the program this year?
1,089.
Does it only run in the summer series?
No. We started in October the program. They will end at the end of June. See, the 9 months will end at the end of June. And then we're preparing for year 5 right after Christmas period, which is now. We'll start the publicity for year 5. We'll enroll the kids hopefully for July and then August and September startup so that we'll roll over the program all the time.
Now, a youngster can only do this program once.
That's right. Cannot reapply.
Right now, does he get paid in the program?
He gets $1 a day, room and board, and his travel expense. And if he stays with the program for the 9 months, he gets a $1,000 bonus at the end. If he leaves the program after 4 or 5 or 6 months, or even 8 months and a half, he just gets his tickets back home, that's all.
$1 a day plus his room and board in a camp?
In a camp or in houses that we rent in different places in Canada.
I should give you a head and let me tell you, it's described here as a National Volunteer Youth Service Program.
Right.
An immersion course in living. In what kind of places? What do they do? It's not just to learn the French or the English language.
No. They will physically work because 75% of their time will be spent building log cabins, clearing rivers for salmon, as an example. They will build ski trails. They will do things that a small municipality couldn't afford to do. So we're involved like this year in about over 80 different municipalities in Canada. And that's the type of work that they're doing right now. And the rest of the time, when they go back in their house with their group, they will learn the second language, learn how to do their own cooking, how to do their own shopping, how to manage their own budget and stuff like that.
Now, who is eligible to apply for this? Is it a special type of youngster who has problems, perhaps?
You might have a problem. The problem with some of our youngsters, they finish high school, they don't know what option they're going to take in college. They would go to their parents and say, well, I'd like a year off to see what this life has to offer. Well, Katimavik is a good place to be because you can see and work in different places, try different experiences, and with these experiences, now you maybe after the end of 9 months, will help you make a choice. Go back to university or, but in a field that you at least know a little bit about it.
Did you say that you spend the 9 months in 3 separate locations?
That's right.
For instance?
For instance, well, there's a group that's going to arrive tomorrow from d'Avignon in Quebec.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little town about 50 miles outside of Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
They took the military option. They're going to be in Esquimalt for 3 months. And they're going to do the regular military training with uniform and everything. And then they'll move on to Ontario through another spot. Well, they'll finish the program.
What will they do? They might be in some kind of woods program, a log cabin building program.
As an example, in British Columbia, in Souk last year, and the year before, we were there for 2 years, we built a log cabin for the Boy Scouts. This log cabin is worth, I don't know, about $75,000. And that was done by Katimavik. They cut the wood and they built the cabin themselves. Yeah.
Now, I remember you had some teething troubles a year or so ago over on Vancouver Island. Allegations of mismanagement, I think there were allegations of drug usage, allegations of, it took me back to the old days on lip.
Yeah.
Now, have you had much in the way of that kind of a problem?
Well, drug problem, I guess we'll always have.
It reflects the community.
The community in Canada as it is. I mean, if people tell me that there's no drug in our school, I will tell you that there's no drug at all in our program.
That's right. Except
that if they're caught smoking in our program, they're thrown out. We're not tolerating anybody that would smoke marijuana in our program. That's the difference. In year 1, well, like any young program that starts, we had some hardship. Then I can tell you now that after 4 years, these things have been...
Where do you get your teachers? Are they teachers? What would you call them? If they're in the military, of course, if they do their 3 months...
They're with the military people, regular military
How
people.
many of them go for the military option?
There's 299 this year.
That's 20%?
Yeah.
That's remarkably high, is it not?
We had about 600 applications for the military option this year.
That'd be the one where you'll be restricted. You can only get so many places, I should imagine, in the military establishments.
Also, your choice is Valcartier, which is Army, and Esquimalt, which is Navy.
Which is Navy.
Yeah.
Now, at this time, both in and out of the military experience, you have bilingual, you have teachers of both languages.
They have regular courses, plus they have tapes and cassette that they can work with when they're back in their house. And
do they live in the lap of luxury?
No, on the contrary, we were, renting houses for $250 a month, living 12 people in a house like that. Plus the budget, they have to manage their own budget and it has to stay. I can tell you the cost per head last year was $26.63 per kid.
Per day?
Yeah, that's including everything, overhead and everything. So.
Good. Okay, my guest is Monsieur Paul Phaneuf, Phaneuf,
right.
Executive Director of
Katimavik.
Katimavik, yes. An Eskimo word meaning?
Meaning meeting place.
Everything means meeting place. And you can call him and question him about Katimavik. Maybe you've been through it. Maybe you want to go through it. Maybe you want your youngsters to go through it. After the break. Okay, check it. I do it the last bit. Depends how long ago in that. So the 260s, is that correct? That's right. Gordon Therriault. Is that right, Gordon?
That's correct.
Therriault.
Yeah. Can I get you to, once you've got this thing.
Rhymes with Ray Therriault.
Can I get you to sit right in? Can I get you to sit right in? Right. Okay. 1 minute.
Hold on, please. Hello there. You want to talk about Katimavik? Hold on, please. Don't go away. You there? Hold on, please. You're Victoria, aren't you? You're the first call. Don't go away. We might get a flood of calls on this morning. With me also now is Gordon Therriault, who's the Regional Director for the Pacific of Katimavik. That's the whole
province of British Columbia and the Yukon.
And the Yukon. How many operations do you have in BC?
We've got 5 projects in the province right now. 1 on the island and the rest in the interior.
Where are they?
1 in East Kootenays, in the West Kootenay area, 1 in the Prince George area, 1 on Vancouver Island, and 1 on the Sunshine Coast.
Running successfully?
We think there are always minor problems, but basically,
of course. Well, I've got some calls here, and we'll take the calls, and either one of you can answer the calls as is appropriate. Okay. Also with me is Mr. Phaneuf, who's the Executive Director. Go ahead from Victoria.
Good morning, Jack.
Morning.
I was fortunate enough to have a chance to talk to some of the Katimiviks in Esquimalt with the Navy portion. I'm with the Coast Guard, and they'd asked me to come and talk on careers with them. And in talking to the students, the program seems to be very, very valuable, and they reflect that they enjoy it very much. And I'd enjoyed talking to them very, very much myself.
What, are you going to go into the program?
Pardon me? No, I'm with the Coast Guard. I'm a training officer with the Coast Guard. But they had asked me to go into the program just to talk to the people.
And you were impressed?
Very much so.
Well, thanks very much. We don't normally get praise for anything on this program, Mr. Phaneuf.
Glad to hear this.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Webster, and
gentlemen.
To your guest. I'm just wondering, as long as we're spending our tax dollars, is this thing open to the magistrate of our courts to allow or ask them to take the course for juvenile delinquents and dropouts and so forth? I'll hang up and I'll wait for your answer.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, we do get in Katimavik people who are on parole, young people who are on parole. We're not specializing in this, except, like I said before, this program is open to all young Canadians between the age of 17 to 21.
Right.
And if you can put up with the program, put up with the group, put up with the work.
Is there discipline in the program?
There is discipline, a lot of discipline.
Of the 1,089, how many are women?
50%.
Do you schedule it that way?
We schedule, it's going to be 1/3 of French Canadian, 2/3 of English Canadian, plus 50% female and 50% male.
In both categories?
In both categories.
Very good. Next call. Gladys, go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. Over the years, and having moved out here to BC, and having lived in around the Ottawa region, the budget for this program just sounds like another just federal government giveaway.
$12.1 million this year.
Sure.
Do you regard it as Paola and the Make Work project, which doesn't do any good?
In essence, no. I think it's maybe a summer or a year for some 17-year-old, but in essence, I don't think it does anything.
Well, I can answer that very easily. If we leave behind, like in year 3, as an example, in capital investment alone, buildings that we have done, we left $500,000 worth, at least. Okay, that's one thing. If we deduct that from the 2663, and I could keep on going like that, you'll find out that this program is not that costly. And when we say $12 million, one thing we didn't say also is that we never spend the total amount that was allocated to us. We always try to manage, because I say that everybody's involved in the budget, we always try to manage to spend less than that.
The fact that you're a bilingual program, does this mean that you're aiming for an IQ standard of people competent and able to learn both languages?
No, because some people do not learn the second language well in the program. Some people, I guess my wife's been trying to learn English for 3 years and she hasn't succeeded very well. Some people can learn the second language easier than another. But at least they're going to try. And I think bilingualism is a question of attitude more than anything else.
But your bilingualism, really, bilingualism aptitude and the knowledge is a bonus for the program.
Yes, it is, yes.
But this man doesn't like you.
Well.
Thank you for your call, sir. Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. Later in the spring, I've got 10 acres to fence and some barns to build up at 100 Mile House. Can I get any help from these kids?
No, it's strictly for non-profit societies. We
I'm a
don't.
non-profit society. I'm just trying to save up enough money to buy a power saw.
Unfortunately, you may not be registered under the Societies Act of British Columbia, and that's one of the prerequisites.
In other words, you'll only operate for people like the Boy Scouts.
That's right. We do some work with individual families and whatnot when we have a billeting situation from time to time where we put the participants with local families so that they can learn more about the community that is hosting their group. And in those instances, sometimes they do work with the local families, but only on a very limited basis.
Oh, that's a fair enough answer. Although I liked his perception and thinking he might get his 10 acres fenced and save enough money to buy his power saw. Go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes.
I think this is a marvelous program for some people. I'd like to refer you to an article in the Sun a couple of months ago. It told of a professor in UBC who formed a cooperative. And they have over 100 acres in Cortez Island. And they have these people in your program up there enhancing the property and doing their big... It's very great for these people who are in the co-op and who are professional people in UBC. And
well, you're suggesting that...
by their property.
You're suggesting that they're leeching on Katimavik.
I know.
Are you?
I would suggest you read the newspaper article.
No, tell me what you think yourself.
They're using these people to enhance their property.
Richard, are you supplying people to a 100-acre project in Cortez Island, owned and operated by wealthy professionals from UBC?
That's exactly right.
No,
They formed a co-op.
All right, let the man answer. I put the question to him.
Okay, the farm operation...
Hang up and listen.
Okay, thank you.
The farm operation on Cortez Island is open to anybody who wants to take advantage of it. It's a learning opportunity to learn techniques of farming. It is not closed, or it's not a private society by any stretch of the imagination. Anybody can go into the Cortez farm and be a member of the community and work on the farm and learn farming techniques. What we're helping them to do is increase some of their facilities so that they can take in more people who are interested in learning something about farming. It's not at all.
See, that man's got the clear impression that what you're doing is you're supplying free labor and expertise to build up a piece of private property.
The farm is it's a land trust operation. The land, they have their own charter which says that if the farm is at all used for private gain, then it reverts back to public land. So that they've written this in as the first tenet of their charter.
You check this out.
I know this, yes.
Much obliged. More with Monsieur Phaneuf and Gordon Therriault after the break. Paul Phaneuf, Katimavik, and Gordon Therriault. From Bridge Lake, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm going to turn my TV down, but I'll talk to you at the same time. I didn't realize there was such a time lapse. I'm very interested this morning because I had just picked up the CWY folder that my 17-year-old daughter brought home from school, and I'm noticing immediately the similarities, except that the CWY program is world-oriented, whereas the Katimavik is strictly Canadian, is it?
That's right. The Canadian World Youth is an exchange between different countries in the world and Canada, but it's a similar work program. except the Katimavik is strictly a Canadian program.
The language part interests me particularly, although you didn't stress it. I mean, is it sort of optional?
No, it's one of about 7 objectives that we have in the program. We have a number of different other educational programs that we open the participants up to, such things as environmental awareness, nutrition and health, appropriate technology, and second language learning is one of those objectives.
Well, maybe you can get your daughter into Katimavik.
Yes, well, I think she was interested in...
Is she guaranteed 3 months in Quebec if she goes?
No, on a Francophone project, it could be in L'Acadie in New Brunswick, it could be in Ontario where you have a Francophone
Which is guaranteed 3 months in the French-Canadian community.
Definitely.
And the French-Canadians are guaranteed the reverse in English-Canadian.
That's right.
And I suppose most of this information could be available through the school.
Yes, we will.
By the way, have you seen Gordon Brown lately?
Oh, I haven't seen him. I've talked to him recently. He's my husband's partner.
Okay, wish him a happy new year from the old fella.
Okay, I will.
Much obliged. Tell me, I'll ask you a racist question. Is it not a fact, Mr. Phaneuf, that French-Canadian youngsters pick up English quicker than English-Canadian youngsters pick up French?
It is true.
That's because of the overall exposure.
That's right. We're surrounded by 220 million Anglophones.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, the French-Canadian are...
more difficult to pick up. More difficult for the English-Canadian.
Definitely.
From Victoria, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Jack. I used to train cadets in Victoria, and through that organization, I've had a chance to work with the Katimavik organization and see what they do. And in my opinion, they're doing a really, really good job, and I wish to tell these two gentlemen that they're really doing a good job. My only sort of beef is, if you can call it a beef, is that I think that they should expand the program bigger and try to bring more young people into that organization because they're doing a really great job as far as I'm concerned.
Well, thank you, and we hope to expand, but it's a question of money, like anything else, you know.
You're not getting any more money this year. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I just want to ask one question. What is the proportion of French-speaking and English-speaking persons in the 1,086 or so people?
Okay, well, you'll have in the program 1/3 of Francophone and 2/3 of Anglophone, because it's the way the group is composed, like they're built up in group of 33. You will have in that group about 11 Francophone, and you'll have 22 Anglophone. And all these groups, and 50% male, 50% female. And that's the way every group is composed, so that they will work together and they will be able to exchange and learn the second language by speaking it.
And you choose the numbers coming in by that rule?
That's right. It's chosen by a computer. It might surprise you, but we put all the socio-dem that we want, and we put all the cards that we get from the application, and the computer sorts the names out.
Is this 1,100 the maximum you can handle?
This year, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
One last question while it's on the line. How many applications would you get to fill the 1,100 spaces?
Oh my goodness, we got about 4,000 firm application last year.
So it's a 3-to-1 chance of getting in.
That's right.
When do they apply again?
For the year coming up, we have 2 phases starting, one in July and one in September. So there'll be applications will be in April for the spring phase, and then again in July and August for the
How do youngsters know about this? Just from your newspaper ads?
No, basically this
television.
year participant recruitment will be done through the schools. So we will be sending participants, ex-participants, into the schools with a slide tape presentation to talk to prospective participants about their opportunities.
Like grade 12 students?
That's right.
Much obliged. Time for one more call, I think. Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. I'd like to speak from a participant's point of view. I just arrived in Vancouver from Quebec yesterday, and I have to say that I have learned so much from this program in just the 3 months that I've been involved with it.
How old are you?
I am 19 years old, sir.
Vous parlez français maintenant?
Je parle français juste un petit peu, mais by the end of the program, I hope that I can speak fairly bilingual.
My goodness, you must be from Davignon, eh?
Oui.
I recognize your name, your voice.
He is from Davignon, is he?
Well, you just arrived from Davignon because my hometown is Bromont, and there's a program right close by to it. So I've met some of those participants.
Katimavik, your youngsters will learn about it in the school. If not, you can find them in the phone book under K for Katimavik, correct?
That's correct.
My thanks to Mr. Phaneuf and to Gordon Therriault. And I'll be back after the break. I missed them last year.
Right.
Oh, fuck. Trudeau must be embarrassed today. cancelling the visit to Algeria. Eh?
He should have stayed skiing.
Yeah. Tomorrow.
We have Bob McClellan talking about energy and
failure to pay the natural gas tax to Ottawa.
right. And fuzzy separatists, Western Federation with
Elmer Knudsen.
That's right.
West Federation. Not quite, they're quasi-separatists, aren't they?
I don't think they made up
anyway,
their mind.
bright program tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. precisely.